have X amount in an association, there's no reason why the association can't expand and have all coastal neighborhood added to that. It would actually expand the power of OCNA and have two representatives representing the density and the population on the coast. I think that's why I find this very, thank you.
Okay, I just want to say something about that. So, density is not a criterion. Communities of interest is a criterion, and we don't usually go through and tell people, you know, I mean, we're not commenting on how people feel about their communities of interest. So, you know, the way that the criteria are written, if people come in and say, hey, this is a neighborhood organization, this is a community of interest, and they make that case, then that is really technically something that we would, you know, prioritize over the density concern. Just
My community of interest was also, I think, at the South Ocean side.
correct,
So
but that's
Yes,
it's not just on density, it's I guess,
yes, and if a community of interest, for example, there have been communities of interest that have been submitted that are larger than one district. And so obviously that is going to get split. You know, it's not possible always to keep every single community of district intact. And likewise, it's if there's a community of interest with 2,000 people and a community of interest with 20,000 people, then, you know, there's sort of like a weight there saying, well, this is a smaller community of interest that is important for them to be kept together, where somebody with 20,000 people, there's a little bit less. Okay, anyway, so this highlighted area is about 2,500 people.
and then if you gave the yellow Crown Heights, that was not
Crown Heights is currently in the yellow district.
Oh, and then
Richard, yes.
Well, just looking at what you have going, on this one, and about what Cindy's saying, to me, it looks like you're going to end up dividing common interests as for density. And I think common interest is what we're looking for here, and not so much density. I don't see that if there's two or three along the coast, that it necessarily matters what the population is. To me, and I could be way wrong, that actually you have the district touching the coast, which means there's a say in whatever there is. So if you had three of them here, you have three people that have a say in that coast. And you would very likely, if you wanted to get something done through the city and you were on the coast, you'd have three people in your back pocket already.
And if you're not in those three, you're going to get teamed up again very quickly.
Okay, so I just want to keep sort of eyes on the prize for this meeting. We're trying to get to at most 2 maps. Right now we have this neighborhoods map potentially on the table, the community of interest map that was drawn here in this meeting today on the table, the quadrants map maybe, and then we haven't even looked at Richard's map. So right now I am going to put that map up, which was was submitted as a community of interest, testimony that was submitted as a full plan. So I'm just going to put that up because that request was made today.
And we're now 35 minutes over the time when we were supposed to stop, so we're going to do this all in 25 minutes. So basically get to 2 maps in the next 25 minutes.
May I ask why we have to get the 2 maps when you have 4 maps coming?
Yeah, because
Why can't we go to 3 and get it done in 25 minutes?
I think that
Yeah, have 3
I think
instead
that
of
it's
4, and we'll have cut down 1, you know, because We spent a lot of time doing that.
I can, just to respond to that question, which is a really good question, I think it is probably in the best interest of this process and this community and of the city to be able in next week's meeting, which is the last meeting, if I'm correct, before the draft map is published, to be able to really focus on like fine tuning whatever map is chosen that will be presented to city council. So if, for example, there's 3 maps presented, then it's going to be this all over again of trying to fine tune down each of the 3 maps, which will be then taking away from time to look at the other maps. So I think it's really in the best interest of this process and of this community to move to at most 2 maps. And I mean, I don't think we're going to get to 1 map today, but eventually we have to get to 1 map, and having more time to really look at each of the maps is only going to benefit that process.
And also, you are the experts, so we're going to follow your lead, and if 2 makes sense, hopefully we can get there tonight.
So yes, and we can, so this is the map that was submitted by Richard Fox. I can zoom into the details, and I'm happy to, hear comments on this.
Do we have the pointer? This is, my name is Ray Ream. I think that my problem with this map is really only that these concentrations right here, when you split that up and you take these districts going out far, it's very similar to the strata map, but this is where the bulk of the money is going to be, and I feel like that can really influence an election. You don't think that matters with a candidate? No. I'm talking about the campaign funds. And so if you look at an area where all of this money in business is coming straight into a candidate, you're gonna influence this, and then when those candidates get elected, who are they gonna pay attention to? Where the money came from, or are they going to pay attention to their whole community?
What we have now is still coming from a small part, all of Oceanside.
You know?
Represented, right?
And so they're going to look at how they're going to get elected. You want to work for your district, but if the money is so consolidated to the coastline, it's all this inland area is not going to have somebody speaking for them. At least that's my feeling. Here's your laser.
Oh, sorry, Richard.
Well, basically, what I wanted to point out is that it keeps Oceana intact, Fire Mountain intact, Southo intact, the agricultural area intact. Rancho de Oro is slightly split up, and it has the compactness, the contiguous formations, and I think it keeps most of the community of interest intact, more so than any other map that I've actually seen.
Yeah, the one that was drawn here today, I think, keeps the most, the one that we started with, but this one was definitely the one until that map, I think, that did a pretty good job. But, yeah.
So you want more? Any other input on this map? Yes.
I have a question for Richard.
Sure.
Richard? Hi, I have a question for you, Richard. Hi, I have a question for you. What is the benefit of splitting the coastline in 3?
The idea I see in splitting the coast highway in 3 is, or the coast in 3, is that you have 3 representations, and you have those 3 communities all the way across that can be represented by the coast, because the coast is our major asset. So these people way out in Ocean Hills will have a say of part of the coast, or the people in Oceana will have a say of part of the coast. The people all the way out there will have a say in part of the coast. So if there's something going on in the coast, it has 3 different representations.
So what the coast say goes.
No, not necessarily. I'm just saying that it's our biggest asset, and that gives more of the population at least a say in what's going on the coast.
So,
The money is way up in the corner.
real quick.
Way up there in Morro Hills. That's big should be
Okay, so real quick, let's take a time out. Jamie's going to show the communities of interest that are in this particular map, and then I believe it's probably going to be prudent for us to take a vote on this map afterwards to determine whether or not to proceed. So let's let Jamie show us the communities of interest here. And we have 20 minutes, just like
Right,
you guys.
there are a lot of communities of interest intact in this map. One that is split is the East Side and Crown Heights neighborhood. The Coastal Neighborhood Association is definitely mostly intact. I believe this is just a census block boundary that is splitting it there. There are some larger ones that are split, which is sort of this east side area that was hoping to be with the harbor. In the northeastern area, this really is intact in a lot of places. The Jeffries Ranch and Morro Hills area. This is this was the community of interest that was Rancho del Oro as like sort of a thoroughfare, hoping to be in one district. Yes. And I think those are the major communities of interest. This again is a really large community of interest, and it's really difficult to keep large communities of interest intact in every map, but this is community of interest that said this Loma Alta, South Oceanside, and Fire Mountain should be in one district. Again, this is a very large one, but this is East Capistrano Airport and Town Site in one district. So those are some of the main areas. Of course, Oceana, Fire Mountain, and South Oceanside are all intact as neighborhoods. I'm just clicking through them really quickly to show everybody. Yeah.
Okay, Jamie, should we proceed then with voting on whether to move forward with this?
Yeah,
Okay.
I think that maybe it could be good to have comment as to which two should be kept, thinking about voting on them or commenting on them in relation to the other maps that we have on the table. I can, as quickly as possible, I can't just click them all on and off because they're all sort of loaded as different plans, and that's just how this software works. I can show them all back to back as quickly as possible to get sort of a refresher about what we're looking at right now. Okay. So again, this is the map that was submitted by a community member. And because it was a community of interest, this one I can sort of click on and off more quickly. This is the neighborhoods map. I'm going to move on to the quadrants that we edited a little bit today. So that's the quadrants map. And lastly, we have the community of interest map that was drawn in here today. So maybe now there could be comment or thoughts.
See, this community was right next to the what was it, tweaked quadrant?
If I can have a little bit of time from everybody, then I can save it as a different type of file and load it onto the other map, which will take a couple minutes.
Perfect. So if that's the case, then let's give Jamie a few moments and get some, Karin, did you have something to say?
But if there is general comment, perhaps we can just do that without Jamie clicking around, and she can do the technical work.
Yeah, how about just general comment? Raise your hand, I'll bring the mic
And I
to you.
think one way to think about this is just look at these maps from the perspective of which one can I turn into something that's better, and which one will take a whole lot of time to turn into something that is better, okay? So, again, we have one more meeting to work on 2 maps and hopefully turn that into 1, but we got to make some decisions.
Perfect. Great. So then just before we start taking public comment, since we are getting short on time, just try and concise to the point of what you want to see, what map you don't want to see. So raise your hand, I'll bring the mic to you.
This is the community of interest map, and looking at that in comparison to the neighborhood map, the blue section, which included Morrow Hills and Jeffrey Ranch, is now more compact up at the top there instead of being spread all along the east end. And the part that was red on the neighborhood maps is now more concise down there, right in the middle too. It looks more like a community of interest. It's, compact. And then the yellow part, of course, loses that big, long branch that came up there and is more concise down at the bottom of the neighborhood. You can see the yellow doesn't have that big, long yellow branch bringing out there. And so then we also have the bottom part, which had a community of interest, which I spoke about. And I think this is 4 districts that look like they're fairly equal, other than the green part, because it's just in a strange location. But the other ones are pretty evenly, designed.
Yeah, and just as you know, while she was speaking about the community of interest map. Those other maps that were popping up is because Jamie's saving them. So I just wanted to clarify that. No, it was fine. All right, Larry? There you go. Are we looking at the community? So right now, we're looking at the quadrants because Jamie's saving everything.
All right, so the request was to see the community of interest map versus the quadrants map. We can also do this for the community of interest map versus the neighborhood map, etc. So right now, what we're looking at is the quadrants map. And I'm going to add the community of interest map right now.
And if everybody could keep their comments to, I'd say, 15 seconds or so, let's just do the highlights, okay? Like this, don't like this, get rid of it, like these 2, something like that. Because it's 10 to 9. Last call.
So in this map, the differences are really in this, one of the differences is that this line on Oceanside Boulevard is maintained throughout the community of interest map. And then really the other difference is that this area between the river and 76 is included in this central district in the community of interest map, and this area of Jeffrey's Ranch is included in the most northern district with Morrow Hills in the community of interest map.
So what I would say, looking at these 2 overlays, I would say axe the quadrants map, keep the community of interest map, and work on the community of interest map next time to incorporate the differences that we want to have incorporated. How does that sound? Does that sound? Yes? Okay, that's a yes. Quadrants is out.
The only real difference between the quad and the community of interest.
Hold on.
The only real difference is you have Jeffrey's Ranch and that other one. If you can, if one is what I heard 7,000, one is 4,000. The delta's like 2,000 each, which would fit. And then you have the quad map in the community of interest map.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Let's work on that. Let's keep the COI map and we'll work on it next Tuesday.
Great. So I think that also the other distance, the other distance, oh my goodness, the other difference in this map is that this central district right now, it doesn't have anything filled in, also does not include this area. So this is not, so I think this is not actually an exactly even switch. So there.
So with that being said, Jamie, I think since there was disagreement, I did hear disagreement as to whether or not to get rid of the quadrant map, so I think it would be prudent. So for clarification, so as I understand it, what Karin just said was to get rid of the quadrant map, and then next week focus on the community of interest map and the neighborhood map. That's what so for the sake of that, all right, Terry, let you speak, and then, no, that's fine.
Excuse me. Tonight I heard comments that really focus on districts should follow visible features and boundaries when possible, and be compact and contiguous, with shared, common social, and economic interests. The quad does it. At first, that was not my first choice, but based on what I've heard all night and knowing what I know about this city, to me, the quad is the best of the four we're looking at.
Okay, so since that is, go, Jamie, please.
I think I hear what you're saying, and I think that actually the quadrants map and the community of interest map have actually a lot in common, and trying to do those switches to make everything that you're speaking to right now about the quadrants map apply in the community of interest map probably wouldn't actually be a huge thing to do.
Yes.
That we could work on in a week from now.
Right, I just have one comment on the community interest map, and that is, I think that we switched a couple of the lines down on Mission Avenue that included some of the businesses there, which put businesses in that northeastern quadrant, which the quadrant map has, at least remember my memory is when we were looking at the streets, it didn't include the businesses in that quadrant. So it would be nice to have businesses in that quadrant.
Thank you. Yeah, so when we leave tonight, this is not the final product. Next week, next Tuesday is going to be when it all congeals and we come around 1. So Karin, just for the sake of everyone having the input, should we get their vote on to get rid of the quadrant? Yeah, because they're very similar. Okay, so I just want to make sure there's no dissenting on that. I just want to make sure.
So we're going to make community of quadrants map.
Basically, you take the quadrants map, which you have printed, and remember the things that you like from it next meeting, and try and get that incorporated. You can all decide together.
So,
which Jamie just told you was not going to be a very difficult thing to do, but it's going to take some work.
Because
and then we'll go through all of the different, lines and just figure out if there's some things that we can still improve.
Perfect.
Okay, so we'll merge those two together.
Okay. So we're
going to get rid of the quadrants, keep the community of interest, and then integrate the things from the quadrants map that we like.
Okay. So real quick, everyone in favor then of moving forward with the neighborhood map and basically the community of interest and quadrant, kind of reconciling those differences. Raise your hand if those are the two that you want to move forward. Okay, I'm seeing. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 17, 18, 19. Okay, I see 20. All who are not in favor of that? Okay. Richard's map was already taken off. The 3, that one was already taken off. Really? Yeah, during the last time. Yeah, I'm so sorry. So anyone who's opposed to that, to moving forward with the neighborhoods and the community of interest / quadrant map. Okay, I see none. So I think that is sufficient then for this evening. Then what we'll do, just for clarification, so we're going to move forward with the neighborhoods map and the community of interest with the quadrants being reconciled next week. So please come next week. Encourage as many of your neighbors and friends to come next week and do that. Thank you, Karin. Thank you, Jamie. Thank you, guys. Thank you again.